it was during her menopause area. Now, because of everything I know regarding the health of the body, the health of the mind, the health of us as souls, that when a woman goes through that change in their mid to late 40s into their early 50s, so many things can happen.
I'm Anne-Marie McQueen, journalist and proud 50-ish woman, and we are here looking for the true truth in perimenopause, menopause, midlife, and beyond.
Opening our minds to other possibilities is not always easy.
Hot flash ink.
You're all woman to me. All right, Anne-Marie.
Welcome to the Hot Flashing Podcast. Today I'm interviewing Miriam Putnam. She's a certified wellness coach and freedom from stress counselor with 25 years of holistic mental health advocacy. Miriam came to this work painfully because she had a mother who had a lot of mental health issues and became very involved in pharmaceutical drugs, and she ended up losing her. I don't normally take pitches. I took Miriam's pitch because she lost her mom and I lost my mom, and I wanted to talk to her about what happened and how that informed her work. So we talk about manifestation, figuring out what's going on in the body and how almost always there's something physically going on that's causing mental health anguish and issues. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I want to thank Kion Aminos for being a gold sponsor of the Hot Flash Shake Summit. It was the first one, and it means the world to me that they went on a limb and sponsored it. Kion Aminos is such an interesting product. Like, everyone's out there arguing about creatine, and it's over here giving you 9 essential amino acids in the exact ratio that your body needs to build and repair muscle. Clinical research shows this leucine-rich formula is up to 6 times more effective than whey or food-based protein gram for gram. It's sugar-free, vegan, non-GMO, and very important to me moving forward and choosing brands to work with, third-party tested. There's no mystery blends in this, which is a common thing that supplement companies do. I notice a big difference, and in a time of large stress, when I'm drinking this every day, I am sharper, and I am sharper, and I have more energy. This is a clean, science-backed product. If you want to try it for yourself, go to getkion.com/hotflash for 20% off. That's getkion.com/hotflash for 20% off. Thank you again, Kion. Okay. Okay, Miriam, it's great to talk to you. And I don't take a lot of pitches for podcasts. Just there's so many, right? And but yours really caught my eye because it was about your mom. You lost your mom, and it's about how you have done your life's work based on what happened. And that's the same, a lot really like me, but in a different way. Like, my mom was very ill and she died when I was young. And I just always wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on with her mind, body, and soul. I didn't know it. You don't always know it when you're starting out. So from my heart to yours, I'm sorry you lost your mom. And
well, from my heart to yours as well. So we understand each other.
We do.
Yeah.
So tell me about your mom.
Well, she was a very beautiful soul. And it sounds like maybe my mom was around a lot longer than your mom. So when I was younger, I had the beautiful experience of enjoying her essence. She was gorgeous. I mean, she would wake us up in the morning singing Florida Sunshine songs and make breakfast. And she was sort of like the quintessential picture perfect mom. You know, we went to church and, on Sundays, and we said our prayers at dinner, and, she did all the sports activities for school, and she helped with homework. So she was not a bad mom. She was a really good mom. And when my parents started having difficulties, then that just sort of just kept going down, down, down. And then she became like a little bit of a shell of who she once was. Sometimes when I explain it, it seems like she had become like a different spirit. I mean, she just wasn't really there anymore after the trauma and abuse that she underwent.
So how old would you be at this time? And how old was she?
When it started happening, it was in my my late teens. She went into the first mental hospital when I was about 19.
Okay. And how old was she?
She was, I mean, it's interesting. This is what I found so interesting about what you do, because it was during her menopause area. And I mean, now because of everything I know regarding the health of the body, the health of the mind, the health of us as souls, that when a woman goes through that change in their mid to late 40s into their early 50s, so many things can happen. So many things. And then on top of it, if there are underlying body health conditions as well,
Yeah.
it can be quite a disaster. So she was about 47, I think, when it started happening.
It's so destabilizing, or it can be anyway. So when something hits you, it's too many things. Did you think she was fragile in any way? Had you seen any glimpses?
No, I wouldn't have categorized my mom as fragile.
Okay.
Definitely not. I mean, she was a truth seeker, and something that I admire in other beings that I'm close with and that I help with different spiritual programs is somebody who's actually on a mission to find their truth and make life better. And, when I was younger, she was comparing versions of the Bible.
Right.
So she wasn't a weak little wallflower.
No.
She was the type of being that would get kicked out of Bible study because she was questioning the versions of the Bible. And then when the Bible study didn't want her anymore, then she decided she's going to go learn Hebrew and she's going to study the Torah and go to Israel. And when the
Ah,
rabbis don't want to accept her because she's not Jewish, now she's going to learn Native American
amazing.
culture. And
Yeah. Yeah. But
she
the
was
world is
kind of like a hippie at heart,
yeah.
Anne Marie. She
Yeah.
was really sort of,
I love it. But the world is hard on people like this,
yeah.
when you're questioning. I think
Yeah, it
really
can
like
be, right? If you don't fit into an exact mold, do and say the right things and move your body the way that you're supposed to move it, then it's kind of like you got to be strong enough to make your own mold if you
yeah.
don't fit into the mold that's already there.
Okay, so she started, what were her problems like? What happened?
Before the mental hospital stuff got started getting into it, well, it was marital issues that were getting very difficult, and then a little bit of drugs started seeking into the home, where it would be like pot every once in a while, things like that. So I think it just ended up being a little bit of a trigger.
Okay.
The hormonal stuff that was going on in her body, obviously, and whatever body health issue was there, obviously present, coupled with the hormonal issue, and then coupled with, people have these negative coping mechanisms, right? Stress starts happening, and then they'll go get medical marijuana or something else, and then that ends up becoming a trigger. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of it's a farce, right? We think that a drug makes things better, but then when we don't have the drug, it's like a tsunami.
Okay, so did she start using marijuana to try and sort of self-medicate her
Yeah, I mean, she
inner?
didn't tell me that, but that's just what I observed.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that that's true. And the side of marijuana that no one wants to talk about, and this has been well studied, is that it can actually create psychosis and paranoia, not just in the moment.
You know the feeling when you tried all your health trends, but you're still tired, foggy, or just not yourself? It's not your fault. True Health starts deeper at the cellular level. Enter the first ever longevity gummies powered by MitoPure. They're the only clinically proven urothalin A gummies designed to recharge your cells, boost energy, and help you feel strong and vibrant from the inside out. They taste great. I've tried them. They're vegan and clean. And MitoPure's own testing shows they can add up to 12% more muscle strength in just 16 weeks. It's like giving your body a daily cellular tune-up. If you want to feel energized now and as you age, click the link to timeline.com in the show notes and use my code HOTFLASH for 20% off your first order. That's timeline.com and code HOTFLASH for 20% off your first order.
I mean, I go back to Canada and there's a pot store on every corner. It's alarming to me and weird.
Mhm.
So many people are just taking gummies at night, and this is a very strange thing. So, did she get a diagnosis? What was going on with her? Did she have physical problems too, like underlying health conditions, do you think?
Well, because of who I became and who I am today, I know 100 to 1,000% that she had underlying health issues. Because there is always something in the body that's being exacerbated that presents itself as a quote unquote mental illness. Like I would say 99% of the time. If it's a liver toxicity, if it's an allergy, if it's a hormonal issue, if it's some genetic problem programming thing that happened in the body, whatever it is, there's something in the body. If it's a virus, a bacteria, something is going on in the body that presents as quote unquote mental illness. It's just happens all the time. But then on top of it, she had hormonal issue. So, and I know that just because she was going to seeing different doctors. So, to answer your question, what was happening is that she was going to different doctors to try to figure out what was happening because she wasn't sleeping as much. And then my parents were fighting. And so then we could see the problem and the issue in the home more. And then she started getting diagnosis for mental illness. It kind of happened all in around the same time.
Yeah, like a storm. Did she start being prescribed pharmaceuticals?
Yes, definitely. She was prescribed pharmaceuticals because she was trying to go to a doctor to get help from her health issue, and then certain individuals that were close to our family were using those doctors to get those doctors to prescribe pharmaceuticals and diagnose her with something that's in the diagnostic statistical manual. Back then it was bipolar, and then it was schizophrenia, and then it's dual personality disorder, and then it's, you know, dual diagnosis and drug addiction. And it just, she probably had like 23 diagnoses.
Right. And what kind of pharmaceuticals did she end up on?
Um, Everything from Klonopin to lithium to Seroquel to Thorazine. Sometimes it was a mess, a whole entire, medicine cabinet of them. Thing about her is that she was never pleased about it. She wasn't ever seeking a prescription. She wasn't on the side of, yes, something is wrong with me, give me a medicine that will fix me. She ended up sort of at doctor to doctor and kind of fighting her whole way throughout it. No, it doesn't make sense. And look at these black label box warnings. And because she was such a sort of spiritual individual, a truth seeker, she also was into nutrition and yoga before her times and things like that. And so she repelled against the pharmaceutical industry a lot more than most people. I think for a lot of individuals, maybe they wouldn't have found it so difficult because whatever their doctor's telling them then just resonated with them for some reason. But for whatever reason, my mom she didn't like it. I mean, I went to a psychiatrist appointment with her one time, and the doctor was telling her about taking this newly released medication, and she said, no, like I'm not doing that. I'm not going to take it. And then she gets into the pressure of the family wanting her to take it because if you don't take it, then you're going to commit suicide. And so that was always the fear tactic that was used on our family. Like, if you don't make your mom take this medication, then she's going to kill herself.
Oh God, what a position to put you in. I know what that's like though, even when I struggled with anxiety and perimenopause, like if you confided in someone and not the right person, they'd be like, well, why don't you just go on, like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you going on anti-anxiety medication? Like, it's your fault because you're not going on it. Like, that will just fix everything. And I don't know. It sounds like your mom knew there was something else going on if she could only get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I ended up being the kid that was most on her side.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I would go with her to the doctor's appointments or go to visit her at the mental hospitals, my heart would just break for her, Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that if there's anything worse than, well, because you went through a little bit of an experience regarding this. And when you don't feel like something is wrong with you mentally, and other people are telling you something is wrong with you mentally, it is such a no understanding and no duplication, and you're almost like in some sort of la la land by yourself. The mental
Unkind.
stuff is the worst, like dementia, Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
all the quote unquote mental illnesses, because the person usually does not view themselves the same way as the observer.
Yeah. So what ended up happening? Like what ended up happening with all of the medications?
Well, overall, the medications didn't heal, didn't cure, and I would say definitely more harm. I mean, I ended up finding my mom, for lack of a nicer way to say it, dead. And I think it was the abuse of so many years and in so many different mental hospitals of just no solution.
Do you feel like she wore out or was it like a
Yeah,
specific?
I think she wore out, you know? I
Yeah.
think she wore out.
Yeah.
I think she wore out. I think, like, you know, once a person has gone through that so many times, they just are spiritually dead.
Yeah.
You know, they're ready to move on to their next life, and no thank you, this is over.
Have you been able, first of all, to have a thesis about what was going on with your mom?
Have I been able to have a thesis?
Yeah, like what's your theory? What's your belief about what was actually happening?
I think definitely she had an undiagnosed body health condition, um and then the hormonal thing on top of it.
Okay.
So she was allowed, I mean, the way that I look at it is the medical community allowed her to stay sick, and then the drugs ended up killing her.
Do you think she had any trauma or anything from her childhood?
Not really. I don't think so. Nothing huge. I mean, the main things that happened before the big explosion in our family was that she lost very close people to her. So that a lot of times can happen to someone, that if you lose individuals that are really close to you, that are kind of your stable rocks in life, you probably have know people that this has happened to, or maybe it's happened to you personally, that when you lose somebody that you really love, that is a humongous trigger. Humongous, humongous, humongous. Very huge stress trigger. So when we lose one of those rocks, those spiritual rocks in our life, then it's harder to deal with all the other stress pressures that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my dad. He was my rock, and I lost him a year and a half ago. And I thought, this is the hardest thing. Again, this happened when I was 27, almost like that same number of years later. But I just remember thinking, no one is set up to handle this. Like I'm just supposed to
Hmm.
handle the loss of my parent. Again, really,
Yeah.
it's not any different. There's just maybe one, like a few people around me who've also lost a parent who I can talk to, but it's 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 so barbaric, really, when you lose someone because so few
Mhm.
people are able to deal with it.
Yeah, it's totally destabilizing, right? It's
Yeah.
destabilizing, and yeah.
Yeah, like I just couldn't. It's weird because I couldn't believe how bad I felt. And of course you would feel bad you lost your father, but it's like also like I never got married, so he was just the person I would call and I just felt so alone in the world. I just was so blown away that all these years later, when I was so much more aware about what loss is and I feel my emotions, that it was just still so crazy hard and there were still
Hmm.
so few people who understood. And one thing I am amazed at when people are losing people now is that they're going to the doctor and they're getting antidepressants, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. Or medication, sleeping medication, whatever. I guess there is a role for that, but I just feel like grief is just such a huge thing to go through that I do
Hmm.
sometimes get worried when people are medicating it. Like it does
Yeah.
feel terribly awful. I don't know if it affects the grieving process, and I shouldn't be judgmental. I'm glad that I didn't get any. There's nothing that could have made that feel better.
No, definitely. I
Um,
totally agree with you.
yeah, it just
Yeah.
feels like it's something awful and raw, and you have to get through it to get to the other side of where the can make some sort of sense.
Yeah, I mean, in my spiritual practice, I do programs with people that are where they're able to get through that a lot faster. So I do specialize in that little category sometimes,
Yeah,
because loss is so absolutely unbearable when it's somebody that you love so much. It's hard for people to move on with their lives, and sometimes it's actually hard for people to let go of the loss too.
yeah, yeah,
because a lot of times the different clients that I help, it's like, I know, but how am I going to feel after I feel better? Like, is it fair for me to feel better?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
a lot of times will hold ourselves into this like spiritual trap or something where we're wanting to hang on to that person.
Yeah. And it also brings up so many other things, it just has a way of bringing everything to the surface, and you have to adjust all your coping mechanisms, and family stuff can come up too. It's like, it's a lot. But I'm very
Yeah.
curious about what you do with people now, because you're talking about my spiritual work and soul. And I think I shared something on social media the other day where, someone says you have to be really careful with these things because people hold their diagnoses very closely. But
Yeah.
someone said something like, when you are feeling badly and you're having pain, like often something needs to change. And that's very, very true in my life. And I shared it. And then someone came back and said, but is that true for clinical depression? And I felt strongly that she had clinical depression. I didn't like what I was seeing. And I just said, I don't know. That's a big question. Like, I don't have the answer. Um, but I'm just curious about that in your work.
So, okay, I I think I understand the question, but I'm still a little bit wondering was she saying? Is that true for clinical depression?
Yeah, I shared the thing that said when you feel bad, and she said, "What about clinical depression?" I get the impression that she has been diagnosed with clinical depression and then sort of felt like I was saying, "Oh, you just need to change something in your life." It's not that, but it can be that. So can you sort of speak
Mm,
to that part?
yeah. Yeah, a lot of times people hold on to their diagnoses. And I try my best to not oppose that. I do a lot of holistic mental health education. I have a download where people can go to different nonprofits and sort of find out their own truth. But if somebody chooses traditional psychiatry or psychology as their route and they really like the medicine route, that's not mean. It's not who I am. It's not what I do. It's really focusing on a healthy body and how are we going to get your mind healthy and how are we going to get you, the soul, healthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, although I work with many different doctors, they're integrative and functional doctors and nutritionists and different fitness coaches and things like that, where it's not on I'm just obviously medicine is important and somebody can use medicine for whatever they like to use it for. But if somebody chooses the quote unquote mental illness medicine route, I'm just not their person.
What do you see in the people you work with that's happened when they're in the traditional system? Or what kind of issues do people end up with that you work with that you can help them with?
Um, Well, right now I'm coaching somebody how to get healthy enough to stop taking the medical marijuana, for example. And then I coach people on how to go through a medical detox if they have been on a psychotropic medication for too long and how is that going to work and which doctors are going to help them wean off of it. I mean, my ideal person that I work with is somebody who's already healthy and like is ready to sort of like do the tough spiritual work to kind of take their lives to the next level. But I do a lot of because people end up getting, I hate to say it, but kind of messed up from doctors because doctors are trained traditionally, most of them, and they have bad information. So it's not always the doctor's fault, but it's the schooling and it's the bad information. And then the person goes to see them and then they believe the doctor. So, you know, many various different things like body health, mind health, soul health. Like somebody maybe is really upset with their marriage and then they are wanting to rehabilitate their marriage and have a happy marriage. Well, I help them with that.
Mhm.
Or somebody's looking for, the ideal guy of their dreams or woman of their dreams and then I help them with that. Like how are you going to create it? Like what sort of shape does your mind have to be in? What sort of things in your life do you have to bypass? What sort of cognitive decisions and like more responsibility are you going to take in your life to create that future, right? Because we are constantly manifesting our own reality. We're all manifesting our reality. So if we are not happy with our reality, how are we going to change that? Right? So we can get rid of the negative energy that's stored in our mind, so to speak, and whatever trauma happened early on in our life that's kind of presenting blocks. But overall, it's really we're in control of that. And we have to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and we got to drive our life.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, you know, learning so much about perimenopause and menopause and this huge transition, I feel like, in a way, we're being called to figure this out. Like, we don't get to our 40s without carrying a bunch of stuff with us. And sometimes I can sort of see and guess that people are carrying a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was talking to someone recently who used to be addicted to alcohol and drugs and then went clean and then now is a workaholic, and she's having a heck of a time with perimenopause. And I and she's well aware that she replaced one thing with the other thing, but clearly something is driving it all, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
this just, you can't, I don't know how you can get through perimenopause, and the hormonal transition like forces you to face this stuff that I think your hormones sort of like made okay, or you could function, but when the hormones start receding, I call it like the messy beach. Like you have to
Oh,
kind of run around and like clean this stuff up from the beach after the tide goes out.
you get seaweed all over, all around your ankles, right, Anne
Yeah.
Marie?
Yeah, like it's messy, but it's like the responsibility of doing it. Like we don't want it. I know I didn't want it. I know I felt like a bit like this, like about my life. I don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
explain it. Is
Yeah.
that a human tendency?
Yeah, I think so. I totally think so. It's a good way to describe it because it's not always easy to confront the messy beach. It's not always easy to open up the closet that we all know that we need to throw stuff out and organize it and do it.
Yeah.
It's much easier, I think, probably this is how we've ended up like this in society, is that it's easier to pop a pill and pretend like everything's okay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just maybe for like an emergency level, that's okay because somebody needs to sleep, but we're talking about a long-term coping mechanism, then your closet is never clean, the beach is never clean.
What kinds of
you know
things can happen when people do take that responsibility when you work with them?
oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful because then they have like absolute stress with all these different areas. Maybe it's an area of finance, maybe it's an area of health, maybe it's an area of relationships, maybe it's an area of work, right? Because stress comes in so many different shapes and sizes and all different forms. And then within a couple weeks, it's like they have a life reset.
Mm. How do you do it in a couple of weeks?
You and I can speak privately about it.
Yeah, like I'm just sorry, I've just done it in many years.
Well, right, because most people are used to the traditional therapy that it's years and years and nothing really changes and gets better. And you're talking about the same things over and over and over again, and then it just doesn't get better. Yeah, so I spent my life figuring stuff out and found solutions. And I mean, that's why like on the front lines, I really go kind of hard on, making sure that somebody has a healthy body because I can't get into the mental and spiritual work unless the body is healthy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And you talked about creating our own reality, and I know a lot of people don't want to believe that, but how can you start to believe that's true?
Well, so I do this thing that's sort of like a gimmick that helps people with creating their positive mindset, right? Because people talk about like, oh, positive mindset, positive mindset. But it's like, how do you actually get a positive mindset? So, like, this is because literally we have the unconscious mind, which is like fears and trauma and all the bull crap and all that stuff that is affecting our life, affecting our body. And then we have our analytical mind, which is where we're, painting beautiful pictures, or we're doing this fancy spreadsheet at work, or we're looking at blood reports like you probably do with your different people that you're helping. So like we have two different parts of the mind. So what I'll do usually with people is ask them about their happy memory. Ask them about a happy memory so that, and I don't know, maybe you just thought of one in your life. So I don't know what you're doing in the happy memory. What are you doing?
Uh, I just have this memory when I was driving with my dad. He used to be really hard on me, and I said something that impressed my dad, and he said, he said, I just love the way you look at the world. He
Hmm.
said, like, he just I'm so positive because I thought that this house was this other house. And I said, that's the place we're going on the weekend. And he was like laughing because it was a crappy house. And so
Mm.
like I was like so excited about it. And I love that memory because I didn't get a lot of that from my dad, Like I just said something that made him think, wow, the way she looks at the world is cool.
Oh, I love it. And so, and where are you? You're in a car and you guys are driving?
Yeah, I'm in the back seat. I guess I got approval and I also just felt good about myself and it was like a good vibe.
Neat. And what do you see?
The crappy house that I was looking at that I thought was the nice house that we were going to. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you smell anything?
No, not really.
And then like, can you hear anything other than his voice? There any other sounds?
No, just the car, like just the sound of the car moving.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it's awesome that you had a picture where you're actually moving, right? And so it's like you in the car and you can see the movement and you can hear and your senses, and it's an actual like real picture. And so a lot of times when we have a happy memory like that, that's very real, we can exercise our mind muscle. Now, obviously there's not a mind muscle, but it's just sort of like, people go to the gym to work out their muscles. And then people can actually control their mind because we're all in control of our minds. We can choose to look at something that's crappy, or we can choose to look at something that is not crappy. And it's not always easy to do that in the beginning, but by thinking about something that where we found a lot of joy, contentment, serenity, we were happy, people were smiling, there's movement, there's good smells, then we can get into more of an analytical part of our mind. And once we are happy, once we feel that emotion, then it's much easier to manifest. Then it's much easier to create our postulates, like our thoughts on where are we going and what are we doing? Like, where am I taking my life? Like, where am I going to be in 5 years? What am I doing? What do I have? Am I living in the same place? Am I working at the same job? Like, because we have to actually be in a good place in our mind to envision the future.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen really easily if a person is sick in a hospital bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's a pretty tough place to envision the future. But something that I help people with is like consciously exercising the mind muscle so that we can create out of it. So that sort of vision, the vision board, so to speak, is real for us, and how we are mentally saying like, right, like what are our thoughts? It's not I want a red car. It's more like I am driving a red car.
Right.
And I am switching my job to get a job where I'm getting paid more money so that I am buying that red car within a year. I tell people quite regularly that, okay, if you say you want something to the physical universe, then you are going to get the experience of wanting that. Our inner dialogue is extremely vital for how our life is going.
Right.
Extremely vital. And so in those negative words, the sort of like inner demon, inner naysayer, like, oh, you can't do it, and like, oh, it's not possible, like it's just not really the spiritual being. It's just not. That is, some old trauma. What?
External, it's the
Yeah.
external. That's everything everyone tells us. The day that I
Yeah.
quit my job, a friend called me and I said, "Oh, I'm about to quit my job. Like, give me some words of courage." And she said, "Oh God, keep your job as long as you can. Like, you need to keep the money, the paycheck." That's my advice. And I was like, "Man, did I ask the wrong person?"
Yeah. Right. You're like, never mind. I gotta
Never
go. I'm
mind.
calling somebody else. I'm
Yeah,
calling
that was
somebody else.
horrific. What a slip up there. And I was like, "Okay, I'm
Yeah.
not even listening." So you talk about being a spiritual being. And, there's a lot of negativity towards religion and spirituality and God and whatever it is that's what we can't see. But I think it's so important to live like this because, especially in the perimenopause conversation, it hurts my heart because people talk about us having deficiencies and it's always our hormones and it's like so easy to fix it with hormone therapy and all that stuff can be helpful. But we need to remember who we are. So can you talk about that a little bit?
I love that that's so important to you because it really is. We are more than our bodies. We are more than our bodies. We are powerful spiritual beings with
Yeah.
a powerful mind, and we can create like really anything that we want. I don't know exactly what you want me to say about it,
I
but
don't want you to say anything. I just want
I
you to
mean,
remind people that this is true.
it's really in a person's control as far as how much control are they willing to take of their own mind, you know?
Yeah.
Like how does a person really see their future? Like, what are they willing to do? I mean, for me personally, and I'm sure for you, I mean, people that are very committed to health have a lot of healthy habits. And I don't think that I'm like way overboard. I'm pretty normal, but I do things daily to keep healthy habits in order to keep me, myself, spiritually doing well. So it's not even just for my body health, it's for me mentally and spiritually. Like when I go on a walk, I'm not looking at my phone and looking at things that are going to keep me thinking about the next phone call I have to make or the person's issue that I need to help with or whatever. I will like actually purposely go on a walk and look at the house and notice the birds and notice the people and talk to people
Mm.
and stay connected. But I do that to exercise my mind muscle so that I'm in control of the walk and I'm in control of keeping myself in a place where positive thoughts and postulates are there. And so I can control the future a bit more. And I don't mean some weird controlling thing. I just mean so that any stress triggers aren't junking up my universe,
Yeah.
staying conscious. I mean, I think it's a great thing that you have your trampoline because movement is something that helps us stay out of the unconscious.
Yeah. Daily movement.
Yeah, it's like it's
Move.
very it's
You got to move it out. Like I see my cat once a day, just like rip around like a
yeah.
crazy. Yeah. You see
Yeah, you
animals do
got
it
to
all the time.
move. We got to
Yeah.
have motion. If someone's like something is so on your mind and it's hard to get rid of that thought, well, I mean, you could try jumping on a trampoline for 10 minutes and then,
It'll be gone.
you like make yourself smile and then all of a sudden you're smiling. It works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so how do people work with you if they're interested in figuring this out?
Anybody can go on my website, miriamputnam.org,
Okay.
and get in touch with me that way. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
This is a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. You're so fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I love your life work too and how you're helping people.
Well, I had a really terrible perimenopause, but then I exploded everything in my life and led me to a much better place. And I think it can do that for a lot of people. I think we're not meant to go through it quickly because, well, I just think it'd be weird if you just woke up one day and didn't have your period for one thing. I think that would be just
Mhm.
very shocking for all of us. But there's a
Yeah,
lot to go through by the time you get in your 40s. So you need a little bit
yeah,
of time to process it.
it's true. Yeah, we have to give ourselves grace, right?
Yeah, lots of it.
Yes.
Hot Flash Inc. was created and is hosted by Anne-Marie McQueen, produced and edited by Sonia Mack. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider, read all labels, and heed all directions and cautions that accompany the products. Information received through the podcast should not be used in place of a consultation or advice from a healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem, i.e. menopause or anything else, or any healthcare questions, please promptly see your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Anne-Marie McQueen and any producers or editors, disclaim any responsibility from any possible adverse effects from the use of any information contained herein. Opinions of guests on this podcast are their own, and the podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about a guest's qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. This podcast is owned by Hot Flash Inc. Media.